Hey, how are you? My name is Ben, and I'm a movie buff. On the very first video I did for this channel, my good friend Eric left me a comment on the video asking if I could do a review of Who Framed Roger Rabbit somewhere down the road. Well, we are down the road, and I thought now would be a great time to do a review of this movie. As you probably know, this movie is directed by Robert Zemeckis and was released in 1988. I watched this movie probably like 15, 20 years ago. It's been a very long time since I've seen this movie, so it was interesting watching the movie again, and I was vaguely familiar with some of the elements, but there's still a lot of things that I didn't remember, so it was pretty cool to revisit it. The first thing I want to do, though, is kind of bring up an observation, something I'm curious about. It's not really an opinion, but something that's kind of gotten me wondering. So, in the last 6 to 7 years, we've got a lot of big movies like the Lego Movie, Wreck-It Ralph, Ralph Breaks the Internet, and Ready Player One. All of these movies, what they have in common is something that I call a crossover extravaganza. And what I mean by that is that these movies feature so many different characters from so many different stories and worlds and franchises, and a lot of these characters are owned by different studios, but all of them come together for whatever reason in their given movies. So you get to see all of these cool, famous characters all under the roof of one movie. And I could be wrong, but I wonder if Who Framed Roger Rabbit is the first example of a crossover extravaganza. Obviously, with the Toontown being a thing in the movie, you see characters from Disney animation, characters from the Looney Tunes, you see Woody Woodpecker, Betty Boop, Droopy, you see all these different characters. Frankenstein versus the Wolfman might have been one of the earliest crossover movies, but there are lots of crossover movies that feature maybe 3 or 4 characters. But what I'm talking about, of course, is a movie that features like at least 20 or 30 different characters from different stories and backgrounds and all that. So if you happen to know of an example of a crossover extravaganza movie earlier than Who Framed Roger Rabbit, please let me know. But from what I can tell, it might be the earliest of its kind, which I think is really cool. My favorite thing about this movie, without a doubt, are the visual effects. The combination of animation elements, of animation characters interacting with live action people. It's incredible. I mean, you can definitely tell Robert Zemeckis is a director that definitely likes to push the envelope, especially when it comes to technology and visual effects. We've seen this with a lot of his other movies, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit is definitely a landmark in visual effects in this regard. The way that Roger Rabbit and Eddie Valiant interact with each other is just bonkers. It's crazy when you think about all the work that probably went into making that look good, because there's just a lot of variety, right? You'll see an animated character grab onto a live action character and vice versa. You'll see like a live action character grab a cartoon gun. You'll see a animated character run across the desk with papers flying everywhere. The funny thing is, as incredible as the visual effects are, because the movie is more than 30 years old, there are still little things here and there that you notice, right? For example, there's a shot where Eddie Valiant has a cartoon gun, and he takes the gun and he points it at the camera and holds it there for a few seconds. And there's a moment where, if you look closely, it looks like part of the gun is transparent, where you can see the background behind the gun, behind the characters. You can see that as part of the gun. And I think to myself, I'm like, I found an error, I found a mistake, I found a flaw in the system. And really, I only feel proud of that, because 95% of the shots of this movie that have the combination of animation and live action just look incredible. So really, it's nitpicks, but it is interesting to kind of look back and see how well a movie like this has aged. And really, for the most part, it's aged quite well. As for the humor in the movie, I think it was kind of a hit and miss for me, right? There are a number of punchlines, there are a number of jokes that I really didn't find that funny, but once in a while, you actually do have some really funny jokes. One of the jokes that I find really funny in the movie is the fact that one of the Weasel henchmen is dressed in a straitjacket for the whole movie. So either his friends busted him out or he escaped from the insane asylum, but I just love the look of this Weasel, who already looks a bit shifty, moving around in a straitjacket. I just think that's really great. I also like the scene earlier in the movie where Eddie Valiant is talking to the producer for the first time, and the producer asks him, "What do you know about show business?" And Eddie Valiant says, "There's no business like it that I know of." And he's quoting the song by Irving Berlin, where the opening lines go, "There's no business like show business, no business that I know." And he's just saying it kind of differently, but the way he says it matter-of-factly, it's like, yeah, it's just the way it is, was a very funny delivery. As for the performances, I think all of them are pretty good. There wasn't a performance that I thought was bad. I think the one who's the clear MVP of the movie has to be Bob Hoskins. Not only is he interacting with other humans, but he also has to interact with other cartoon characters like Jessica Rabbit and Roger Rabbit. And I think, yeah, he's the one that has to carry the movie on his shoulders. If you don't buy that he is interacting with these cartoon characters, then you don't have a movie. But I thought he did that well, especially when he has some serious dramatic scenes with other cartoon characters. I bought it. If there was one thing that I wasn't a huge fan of for the movie, I think it's the climactic action scene. So there are a number of beats in this climactic action scene. You know, this thing happens and that thing happens and it leads to this, and then we get a bit closer to the end. And when I thought the climactic action scene was about to end, I was pretty much ready for it to end as well. And then it kind of kept on going, right? It kind of did that false alarm where it's like, oh no, actually, the danger is still present. There's a fight that still needs to happen. So I thought it went a few minutes too long. So overall, I think the movie's pretty good. I enjoyed it. There wasn't anything about it that blew me away. I mean, the visual effects did, but beyond that, everything else was pretty standard. That's all I have to say for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I really appreciate it. Be sure to like, comment, and share this video. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.